September 11th, 2001 was just the fourth day of the new school year for New York City. Teachers were still learning names, and the students were excited about the new school year. Downtown Manhattan, the neighborhood of the World Trade Center, is home to a handful of schools. No one could have imagined how the events of that day would change so many lives forever.
Everybody was settled in, and I was about to start sort of greeting them and saying hello, and we heard this enormous just boom outside.
I was on 82nd floor, and I came to the office at 8:45 a.m. And the moment I sat down, the building started to sway.
It was a beautiful sunny day, and there was black smoke. Big contrast against this really sunny sky and just black smoke billowing straight up.
On September 11th, I was actually in my backyard laying this brick patio, and we had the radio on, and we heard of the initial plane crash. So we turned on the TV, and when I was doing that, I was getting paged by my office. The state was starting to, mobilize as far as our resources. As I was on the phone with my office, the second plane collided in with the tower. So I called my wife to come home. She was on her way home, and I left, went to work, and started hearing of the other evolving issues down at the Pentagon, the other plane crash. We pretty much loaded up everything we could, planning on seeing the highest volume of patients ever, and flew into the city.
My instinct told me that get out as soon as possible. The staircase became more crowded, and it was like stop and go.
Then we heard people screaming outside and screaming in the hallways, and a bunch of parents were shouting, and I knew there something horrible had happened.
I saw the planes go into the buildings, and I was in Brooklyn and spent the day working side by side with the chancellor trying to get kids home.
While everyone else was evacuating their high school, in the shadow of the burning Twin Towers, Stephanie and Becky were waiting for help. They are wheelchair-bound and were unable to follow the others out of the building to Battery Park, where students were being put on ferries to the safety of Brooklyn, New Jersey, and Staten Island. Special ed paraprofessionals Margaret and Julia located the girls quickly, and together the four of them embarked on a remarkable and terrifying journey to safety.
You couldn't breathe. So dark you thought it was an eclipse. I didn't know what was going on. It was a clear day, and all of a sudden it just turned black within a second.
It was very difficult to walk in the sidewalk. The glass was shattered. People just didn't know which way to go.
There was nowhere to run. It was just people everywhere screaming, and you're scared. You can't see because the smoke is just smothering you, and all you think is you're gonna die.
Suddenly, we hear this tremendous noise. We don't know what's going on. I saw the lights flickered and then going off, and the next second, the sheer force of this crowd threw us to the ground, and debris started falling on us and pieces of ceiling, and we thought at the time that we will die.
And so we left the building. My student teacher and I each took the kids that we had left in our hands and walked out the building and right onto the highway, and there's just masses of people there, and we started walking up the highway. And we were about 2 blocks further uptown when the second building exploded and began to fall.
When we were on the street, there was no one there because it was just after the collapse. There was like a moonscape. At that point, I broke down. It was very hard.
Stephanie's wheelchair stopped, and also Becky's wheelchair stopped. Then that's when I saw Stephanie collapse. So I said, hop on my back, quick. And she said, oh my gosh, you're for real. I said, yes, hop on my back. I'm going to carry you, remember? And I bent down and I made it up to the restaurant. Then all that adrenaline that I had, all that strength that I had was going and going. So as we were running towards the restaurant, from here towards the restaurant, that's where another stampede was coming, right? And that's where we were just behind the restaurant, just waiting for the air to clear and everything just go back to normal.
We had to cross in between these emergency vehicles, like speeding down the highway with a school of children. So we were actually telling the children to run across the highway. I think they knew something was going on, but they didn't freak out. I mean, they were amazing. They were really calm.
And there's something very courageous to be said as people are entering a city when the whole city is evacuating. Many of them walked straight over the bridge, right into where the hot spots were, and offered their assistance.
We were pretty scared, actually, but we felt like if there's people that needed us, we should go over there. They said hundreds of people. We're expecting hundreds of people. We got to split up into two teams, Team A, Team B. Team B, go upstairs and sleep. We'll need you to take over for Team A at a certain point, so we're just basically going to live down there for a while and switch up back and forth and keep taking care of hundreds of people. And it just never happened.
I have personally seen some major tragedies that have involved multiple patients with mortal, serious injuries that we've treated and had positive outcomes. On September 11th, what was different, we really didn't take anybody out of there. So for the first time in the 9 years of doing this, we didn't treat patients. What makes it hard for us to deal with is not being able to actually physically help someone. That's a part of our coping mechanism that we use, knowing that we were there and we did what we could do.
Borough of Manhattan Community College was directly affected by the events of September 11th. 6 students died in the attack, as did 3 alumni. One of the main buildings was severely damaged when No. 7 World Trade Center collapsed into it. Classes were suspended while the college served as an emergency command center. While closed, faculty volunteered to call all 17,000 students to see how they were. The college worked quickly to create new classrooms to make up for those that were damaged.
We are now looking at the future with a brighter focus. We feel that this institution will rebound and come out from its ashes.
Slowly, things got back to normal, but they will never be the same again at Manhattan Community College.
The people in this community lost electricity. Food wasn't being delivered. They had no running water. We had nurses who, instead of worrying about her blood pressure, had to worry about whether or not she could get food to the patient's home. Carried up gallons and gallons of water, 6, 7 flights of stairs. The nurses worked around the clock. They woke up thinking about what was happening to the community. They went to sleep worrying about what was going to be there when they got up the next day.
First, we focused on the schools, of course, and the schools in the Ground Zero area, and how we helped them make sure they had a place to go, make sure that that place was a safe place, was a place where people felt comfortable with each other, how to get the supplies to them, how to get, whatever they needed to them.
Among the heroes of September 11th were members of the Public Employees Federation. Many spent countless hours at Ground Zero, making sure that the services they delivered as state employees were not interrupted. Sadly, many who lost their lives were also members. In October, at the state convention in Niagara Falls, hundreds of convention delegates remembered their colleagues during a candlelight vigil. One by one, a white rose was dropped into the rapids below for each of the lost workers.
We lost 34 members, and that has had an extraordinarily sobering impact. We began hearing from AFT within a day, offering us virtually any assistance that we needed. We provided a $5,000 check to every single family within a week, and those funds came from our international unions. For about a month, we were converted from a typical union that does labor relations to an insurance company, a counseling organization, and a group that did things we never did before. But we brought together our staff and our leaders, we charted a new course, and we delivered service and consolation and friendship to people around a devastating incident.
The UFT's goal was to help those members who lost loved ones navigate through this nightmare. They provided services such as counseling, legal help, and financial advice, and staff helped members cut through the endless paperwork.
Shortly after September 11th, I was called upon to serve as a social worker within the union at the Victim Support Program. Those who lost loved ones received individual counseling services. We organized groups. We basically listened to them. We listened and we built a structure based upon the needs that they presented.
The union family leaned on one another during the dark days following this tragedy. Several PEF members who work at the South Beach Psychiatric Center in Staten Island also belong to the state's Critical Incident Response Team. Their mission is to provide professional counseling whenever and wherever disaster strikes. Besides grief counseling and helping survivors cope, team members went daily to Ground Zero to help workers deal with the tremendous stress of the rescue and cleanup work.
People were so hungry to talk or to talk to somebody about what was going down there. Because these people, the iron workers, the construction workers, all the people who were working down there, they were working 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts, just enough time to get home, crash, and then start up all over again.
Although new to the union family, members of the New York State Psychological Association quickly volunteered their services to help survivors, family members, and rescue workers.
We deployed psychologists, 45 to 50 disaster mental health sites that were set up around the city, which happened over the course of the first few days.
A few minutes from downtown Manhattan, Judy Aronson is principal at PS 261, a Brooklyn elementary school with a substantial Arabic population. In the days following September 11th, as students were slowly returning to school, there was a noticeable absence of Arabic children.
The parents of the other children became very, very concerned, realized that there must be a lot of fear, and really were working together in deciding how to outreach to the families to make them feel safe and to get them to return to school. And I noticed a lot of parents going up to the Arabic moms who, were a little shy and very reluctant, and saying, "We're so happy to have you back. If you need anything, just let us know." And I think that feeling of acceptance just made an incredible difference.
After 9/11, teachers had an immediate need for classroom resources dealing with tolerance and diversity. The UFT Teacher Center responded quickly.
We used two different ways of disseminating. One was through the internet, and we used our United Federation of Teachers website and the Teacher Center website to get the packet online. And then the other was to get actual hard copies to all our chapter leaders.
Our family, our union, wants to reach out through this memorial service to remember our brother and sisters and the students.
3 members of the Washington Teachers Union and 3 students were on board the Washington to Los Angeles flight that crashed into the Pentagon September 11th. The students had won a National Geographic competition and, escorted by their teachers, were headed to California for a 4-day field workshop. They represented the best and the brightest of our union family and school community.
She said, "Lizzie, we're going to California. we're going to enjoy the social studies activities while we are there. And I will see you next week, Lizzie. That was the last that I said to Sarah.
It's very difficult to go into a classroom day after day and teach a group of students, and at the same time, you know that your colleague is gone, a student that was in your class is gone.
The children viewed Hilda just like a mom. She was their mom from as early as 8 o'clock to as late as 7. And let me tell you something, she would stay with her kids. If they needed help tutoring in math, reading, science, whatever the discipline, Hilda was there for them.
She was just like a magnet. She drew everybody to her. Bernard was a very rambunctious child. Everybody around here knew him and knew he loved basketball and he loved girls. The girls loved Bernard.
She had an influence on all of us, and that was one thing that lives through her. She was about teaching hands-on, and I think teaching was, her life.
His biggest concern for these children many times were the fact that they did not have fathers in the home, and he felt like sometimes that's what he was to them. They kind of saw him like that. So he was always the first person we saw in the morning and the last person we saw. He always had something to say to all of us. So we came into the building with this perky look.
It's just that 3 active, wonderful people were all at the same place at the same time, and they're no longer among us.
When you left the site and drove up the West Side Highway and people were cheering, it's just hard to describe how that was, because it's so sad that people are together for this reason, but that people did come together and stayed up all night and cheered people coming in and out of the Ground Zero area. They just stood on the highway and cheered with signs saying we love you and proud to be part of America.
Just the outpouring showed the American spirit and our member spirit more than anything else.
We've had at least 10 homemade quilts sent to us that are just gorgeous, and murals and cards, bookmarks, teddy bears. We got copy machines, which was amazing, so that when we were in the satellite school, we were able to go on with business.
But those outpourings, they really let me know that yes, this really still is America. This is the United States, and you cannot say anything better than that.
10 days after 9/11, a state trooper called me and he told me that he found my plaque in the rubble. This is the only item existing from my office. Nothing else is left from 82nd floor.
It's good to see that they are fixing the Pentagon back up and have it ready for September 11th of this year. And if they can get that completed, I think that would be a very good tribute to Sarah, Asia, and everyone else.
To be part of a group of people who can react in such a way, with such humanity and caring, it makes you proud.
What was a terrible tragedy brought us all together and really made the members of PEF appreciate that they were part of a much larger community of workers.
The union family emerged throughout this as the glue that allowed the city to shine, as the backbone with the workers in the spirit, and no one asked them to.
We're all connected, and we're all putting this place back together again.
Now more than ever, I'm proud to be an American, a New Yorker, a PEF member, and most of all, a public servant.